This video will teach you how to select words for entry in your vocabulary journal. Our goal is to select 5 high-utility Tier 2 words each week. Tier 1 words are everyday words that you already know, so they probably won't be circled in your reading. Tier 2 words are those high-frequency words used by mature language users across subject areas. They're more common in writing than in speech. Many are what we call SAT words. They're often from Greek and Latin roots. Words like analyze, recalcitrant, unambiguous, ostracize, and serenity. In contrast, Tier 3 words are words that are used for a specific academic domain or subject. They tend to be the science words and the math words. While these are good words to know, you'll probably be studying them in your specific subject area classes. So in language arts, we're going to focus on the Tier 2 words that are used across lots of different subjects. The first step is simply identifying possible words. As you read your independent reading or word reading assigned for class, circle the words you don't know. This should include words that you couldn't use in a sentence, even if you understand them from the context clues in the text. So let's look at example reading and see how you would do this. I've selected The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. Now I know this text was written by Poe over 170 years ago, and I also know that his style is to use a lot of big words, but because he wrote so long ago, some of the big words he uses are archaic and no longer common today. So I think I'm going to find a lot of words and not necessarily want to include them all in my vocabulary because I want really useful words. So I'm going to be reading this aloud, and as I read, I want you to be thinking, oh, I could circle that word, I could circle that word, and we'll see how many we come up with. The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. This is a story in which the narrator wants revenge against a man named Fortunato, and he's really sneaky in the beginning and wants to trick Fortunato into coming with him. The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my good will. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity, to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In paintings and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack, but in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. Okay, so what's your list of words? Which have you circled? Here's mine. I have 17 words including 2 out of the 3 in the title. So how do I choose which one to include? This is like the first page of a 10-page story. It's not sustainable to pick 17 words per page. I have a list of 7 criteria, and I'm going to go through them one by one and then give you the whole list at the end. First, the word needs to be central to comprehending the text in which you found it. I looked up the word cask and the word Amontillado because I thought the title was really important to understand. If I don't know what a cask of Amontillado is, I don't even know what the story's about. It turned out when I looked up cask, it's one of these barrels, and I realized I do know that word. I don't think it's that common a word today. It might be if I were studying history because they used to pack things in casks. But now that I know what it is, I really don't think I need to make that a study word. And it turns out that Amontillado is a kind of sherry, an alcoholic drink made in a particular place in Spain. That's not a very high useful word for me. Now that I know that this is a story about a cask of wine, I think I should move on and not select either of these words. Second criteria is a word might be a good word if it's flagged as a vocabulary word in the assigned text. Here, the words precluded and impunity are bold in the text, and they're defined over here on the right side of the text. And that might make them possible candidates for being good words. These words were likely selected by the textbook as good vocabulary words because they meet our third criteria, which is that they're words formed with Latin and Greek roots and affixes. When you know the prefixes and roots, it really helps you put together a lot of new words. You'll get better at recognizing when words have roots and affixes as we begin our study of Latin and Greek roots. Now this text is interesting because it also has words that are defined in footnotes at the bottom. And when I look at these words, connoisseurship, gemmery, carnival, and motley, and I look at their definition, I realize that they're highly specific words. Words like motley aren't that useful today. And so I think they've defined them simply because they don't want me to go to the trouble of looking them up. And they're not high utility words, and I would probably not include these in my vocabulary journal. The fourth criteria is if the word is a word for which you know a synonym. For example, I circled retribution in the cask of Amontillado, and when I looked it up, I realized that punishment, retaliation, vengeance, but also redress are synonyms, and redress was another one of the words in the text, so it's probably important. Punishment is something I know about. I know revenge and vengeance, so it would be good to have another word in that family of words, and so retribution might be a good choice. Word's also usually a good word if it adds to your understanding of a bigger concept. I think I was just talking about this, but retribution in this case has a lot of other related words to it in this very text, like revenge, avenged, punished, wrong, avenger, and it seems like it's going to a whole concept about revenge, and so having that in my toolbox is helpful. So we've used several different factors so far. First, the word is central to comprehending the text you found it in. Seems important in the text. The word is flagged in the text as a vocabulary word. Someone else has picked it out. The word is formed from Greek and Latin roots and affixes, which you'll begin to recognize. The word is one for which you know a synonym, and you want to know others to distinguish shades of meaning or vary word choice in your own writing. Fifth, if it adds to your understanding of a bigger concept like vengeance, then it's probably a good word. And the sixth one we haven't talked about, if you've already put it on your possible list from another reading, well, by the second time you see it, pick it, because it's probably pretty high utility. You've seen it twice. And the last one is, you still need more study time with a word. I think I rejected the word cask because once I saw it, I got it. It's not one that I need to study and have as one of my 150 vocabulary words for the year, whereas some of the other words like retribution or vengeance might be more important and long-lasting. It's always a good idea just to jot down the words that you rejected on the possible word page in your journal, because who knows, if you see that word again in your next reading or the one after that, it may turn out to make it on the list after all. Now you know how to choose your words. Good luck.